All right. What's up? September 22, Vallejo, California. Brenda Crawford.
Thank you, Anna, for doing this. I really appreciate it. I think I'm so grateful for your wanting me to tell my story as I go into my 76th year on this planet and recovering from a hemorrhagic stroke. And lucky to be alive because only 10% of those people survive those kind of strokes. So to have someone want me to tell my story is a blessing. I've lived in Vallejo for over 20 years, and I love Vallejo. Uh, Vallejo is an incredible town with one of the most diverse populations in the country. Um, the LGBT community is also diverse in this town. It's not as diverse as it could be, but there are lots of LGBT people in the Bay Area. They just don't live here in Vallejo. A lot of them don't. Some do. Um, as I get older, the thing that is most important to me is my faith. My faith in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, my loyalty to my church, and my commitment to social justice. Those are the things that are important to me today as I go into, I guess, the fourth act of my life. The first two were magnificent. The third was a learning experience, and the fourth has been about meditation and letting go of all of the old fears that I used to have. So, at this point in my life, I'm more concerned with building a community within the Black women's community and the LGBT and the Black lesbian community specifically. I am having a celebration of life, and it really is kind of an early 76th birthday party, or maybe a late 76th birthday party, because I want to have it after the holidays, where I want women from all around the country to come to my celebration of life. I have a woman that is coordinating it. Her name is Izzy Drambuli. I want to get another friend of mine, Sharon Minden, to do the travel agency part of it. And I want all of the women on all of the various social media platforms that I'm on to come and help me celebrate my celebration of life, surviving this hemorrhagic stroke. My life today is like, I have not had a life like this in a while. I've never had a life like this. I've never had a life that's filled with peace and calm and assurance and knowing that I am and always have been a child of a loving God. My politics used to be radical. I don't know if people say progressive, as I'm one of the founders of Voices of Vallejo, which is a progressive organization. I'm a contributor to Open Vallejo, which is another social justice agency, and have broken so many stories in this town, and I support both. I support Voices of Vallejo totally, and I support Open Vallejo.
Can you talk?
And I also support Fresh Air Vallejo.
Can you talk about the beginnings of Voices of Vallejo?
Yes. So Voices of Vallejo was started by Jeff and I. Can't remember just last name. Jeff Carlson. Jeff Carlson and I started Voices of Vallejo. And it was really around helping people understand what radical politics was and is, what progressive part of politics is. Um, and Voices of Vallejo has done a wonderful job of chronicling the history of this town. The Beginner's Guide, which is part of Voices of Vallejo. Everyone who is new in this town should read that.
Where is it?
It's on the website.
Oh, okay.
It's on Voices of Vallejo website.
Okay.
So every newcomer in this town need to read the history of Voices of Vallejo. That's on that website. It will give you a concrete understanding of how this town was founded. What happened in this town, you know. Jeff Carlson is a wonderful, wonderful writer, and he has written so much stuff. That's Voices. Now, Fresh Air Vallejo has done some wonderful things as well. We were able to close down a cement factory.
Which is, that's an amazing. So how did Fresh Air Vallejo start?
Well, Fresh Air Vallejo actually started over in a woman's backyard named Colleen Cole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were sitting in Colleen Cole's backyard, and she actually was one of the founders of Fresh Air Vallejo. And we got together in her backyard and at her house, and we talked about forming this group that would help to shut down the cement factory. Once we did that, we then started to work to do that. We started to put together strategies that would make sure that the air in this town was not compromised in any way, you know. Again, Jimmy Sarmenta, who is now working with the Benicia Butterfly Coalition.
Oh, okay.
He's helping them get their nonprofit.
Oh, wow.
So that we will then be able to plant milkweeds all on Mare Island.
Nice.
To attract monarch butterflies. We're looking to do something in this town to attract things more than the criminal elements and the robbing and the killing and the police violence. We're looking to do something that would build community in this town. There are some people who are opposing that, but we've worked really hard. And if we close down a cement factory, we can certainly get milkweed planted out on Mare Island.
So how did you first, how did you guys first find out about the cement factory? Because that was happening before I came here.
Yeah, that happened before you came to Vallejo?
Well, it was happening while I was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, they held all kinds of city council meetings about it.
Who was on city council then?
Bob Sampayan, I think, was the mayor.
Oh, okay, okay.
It was during his era.
Oh, all right.
I also think that Joanne.
Right.
Yeah, was on it too. Who has always been one of my favorite city council people.
Oh, yeah.
And I would love to see her. And at my celebration of life, I'm inviting Joanne as well.
Oh, yeah.
So then we started, they had hearings about it, and they kept having hearings, and the city council and the people in this town just kept voicing our opinions about it. And Voices of Vallejo was also instrumental in that as well. That we were able to get the city council to vote no cement factory, to close them down. We did our research.
And so where was it going to be?
The cement factory was going to be somewhere on the Vallejo waterfront.
I'm trying to remember. I know it was on the waterfront.
Yeah, it was on the
right
waterfront.
by a school.
Yeah.
And
And we did our research so well that we checked out this same company that had a cement plant in some country, some European country, and the complaints about it were enormous, you know. And so we were able to use that information and a lot of other information that we had to actually just close them down, just stop them. And so that was one of our biggest accomplishments. We had some people on the city council say, so you think you're all of this because you closed down a cement factory.
Oh, fuck them.
You know? It was like, yeah, we think we're all that in a piece of cake because we closed down a cement factory. We kept clean air in Vallejo.
Yeah, I mean, there were going to be trucks running through residential areas.
Yeah. And we didn't have the road set up for that. And in fact, there's still an illegal cement factory that's happening down on Broadway.
Really?
Yeah, and the city knows about it and everybody knows about it, but they've been there for years. If I sit in my backyard on any given windy day, cement dust will fly over on my yard. So, there's still a number of illegal things happening in this town that we need to address. And I guess the reason I'm doing this podcast is because those of us who have spent our lives working in this town to improve the quality of life are all getting old, and it's time for a leadership transition. And I am proposing that, along with a celebration of my recovery, will also be a leadership transition. I want people to come. I want people to enjoy themselves. We're having a big band. We're going to have it catered, and it's going to be a great time. For me, it's kind of a formal way to hand off leadership in this town, particularly leadership around the environmental justice movement, leadership around the progressive movement. It is just time for us to, start to hand over the mantle of leadership in this town. It has been a wonderful ride. I have enjoyed every minute that I've lived and worked in this town.
Okay, so, the cement plant.
And so, there were a group of activists, and it started in Colleen Cole's backyard, and we just did our work, we did our due diligence, and found out what a horrible record it had in other places, and we were able to shut it down. And since then, Vallejo has become kind of a premier social justice, environmental justice agency, and working on all kinds of things. The thing that I would like to work on in Vallejo, and I'm hearing that it is being worked on, is police reform.
Yeah.
I hear that they are now going to appoint a police advisory board made up of citizens.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of power that police advisory board would have, but that is another place that young people need to step up to the plate, or may want to think about stepping up to the plate, because it has such a checkered history in this town.
Yeah.
That police reform is definitely needed.
Yeah.
And I hear that our new police chief, Shawnee Williams, is doing a great job, and I want to invite him to my celebration of life.
Well, definitely, and he really, I like him, and so that would be great. I mean,
okay.
Okay.
So, and maybe at that meeting we can make a pitch for some young folks or some people who are coming to step up to the police advisory board.
Oh, there are young people. There are young people on the police advisory board. Definitely.
Okay. Well, I don't know how many there are. I don't know what their ethnicity is, but it needs to be just as diverse.
Well, it's real. It's real split so far as that sort of thing. Because diversity. Yeah, but so far as like age, I mean, there are. Everybody should be represented, but I don't know. I mean, stuff like. But I mean, with the advisor, it's oversight board, but still, it's all about like whether they have any jurisdiction. I mean, yeah, some, they have any authority, just anything, because like, as it is now, I mean, the police themselves, and
Well, I mean, at least it's a good start. I
yeah.
guess.
It is. It
Okay,
is.
okay.
So,
So-
no, I mean, I'm just agreeing with you.
Okay. So, I don't have a lot more to say about that, except that, I'm glad to see that some work is being done in that area. I have 2 sons, and we sent both of our sons out of town when they were young. Our oldest one went back to Florida, and our youngest one went to Hannah Boys School up in Santa Rosa, because I cannot imagine anything worse than being a mother and having to bury one of your children.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're just things that this community has to work on in order to make this a more livable city. One of the things I can say about
Oakland and Berkeley and other parts of the.
Yeah, one of the things that we did out here is that we got a woman in Oakland. Her name is Rashida Shah, who was on the Oakland Police Board, and we had a Zoom meeting with her to talk about police reform out here. And we have worked with her and the Oakland Police Advisory Board to do that. We also worked with Margaret Gordon over at the West Oakland Index Project because they were the environmental justice agency in Oakland who worked in West Oakland and got things changed in West Oakland. And I'm still very fond of Oakland because that's where I moved from, and I still love Oakland dearly. But I'm not sure how the Police Advisory Board is working in Oakland now, particularly with this upsurge of violence that's going on.
I think things improved in Oakland. Well, some of the cops from Oakland came to Vallejo.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not saying much because
Well,
they were killing people.
That's
in
what I'm saying. Well, yeah, because there's no way to like track, Well, since the George Floyd bill allows for there to be tracking of cops that get fired, but yeah. So,
So I mean, I don't know, but I do know that we need an all-inclusive message to deal with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
There is no them and us anymore. It's all we. That's just the name of the game. I mean, racism is rampant, violence is rampant, and the stuff that really gets to me is all this anti-Asian hate that's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't understand that. Asian women are the first group of women who gave me my chance to be a consultant.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was an Asian woman and an Asian man that hired me at the support center to be a nonprofit consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, Lou, and Janet Masaoka. So, and the support center is where I got my footing into the LGBT community in San Francisco.
When?
It was in the 60s, I think.
Oh, okay. So where were you living before then?
I was living, no, it wasn't in the 60s. I'm sorry, it was in the 80s.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, in the 80s. It was in the 80s. I was living in Oakland.
Oh, okay.
And and I was traveling to San Francisco to go to the support center. And the support center at one point handed in the #1 HIV prevention plan in the country. Mm-hmm. And we did it by working with the San Francisco Public Health. Mm-hmm. We did it by working with a lot of the community-based organization. And so I was really involved in working in HIV prevention. Mm-hmm. and along with that came working also in the Black lesbian community. I also used to be the president of the uh, National Coalition of Black Gays and Lesbians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we used to have annual conferences and talk about some card playing people. You know, we play cards. I forgot bidwist, bidwist tournaments.
Okay.
You know, I was never much of a bidwist player, but they would play bidwist all the time, and we would always have wonderful entertainment there. At one point, I think we had Regina Bell who came and was entertained us. It was always a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conference. I enjoyed it tremendously. And I was also one of the first Black lesbian on the Victory Fund, which is a political organization, you know, dedicated to electing more gays and lesbians in this town. And they were the first, the Victory Fund funded the first African American lesbian that was elected in this country. A woman named Sherry Harris.
Right.
From Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
And so I was involved with the Victory Fund for years, and I loved the involvement I had with them. And it was a wonderful political experience. With the Victory Fund, we actually got invited to the White House. Don't ask me what president, because I don't remember, but I do remember going in the Victory Fund and visiting the White House, and it was during the AIDS epidemic, and they kind of let us in with the guards having blue gloves on.
Wow.
And we were kind of down in the basement somewhere. I don't remember where we were, but I do remember doing that and being really proud of being involved in a political movement that was dedicated to the national election of gays and lesbians. And really, Victory Club and Stonewall are kind of in the same generation. I was at Stonewall when Stonewall happened, because I lived on Long Island, and I would go into Greenwich Village. So I was at the Stonewall. I wasn't at the riots, but I certainly was down in that area, and I certainly saw things that started out at Stonewall. And that also was one of the highlights of my life, to be down at a demonstration that started the LGBT movement in this country. And so came the Stonewall Democratic Club, and the Victory Fund, and all those clubs. So it is an amazing thing to me to have the kind of history I have in politics, both in Vallejo and nationally. The thing that has helped me throughout my life, though, has been, you know, my good friends that I have all over the country, including here in Vallejo, and the dedication of friends, and also my dedication that I have with my partner, Tanya, who has been by my side for 21 years, asked me, when I had the hemorrhagic stroke, they called her 3 times to ask her, did I have a do not resuscitate agreement or document? And she said, yes, I do. And they called her again and asked her, are you sure she has that? So she kept saying, you know, whatever you have to do to bring her back, but do not do any life-saving measures. Don't put her on any machines. So the doctor said, okay, we're going to take a chance. And I was immediately put into surgery, and a tube entered into my head to drain the blood off of my brain. So the fact that I'm still alive is a miracle in itself. Um, you know, I don't even want to think of where I would be if it was not for the grace of God.
Yeah.
I just don't know, you know. I know that I certainly would not be here, and I would not be doing what I'm doing. But you know, my faith came from my mom. My mother was a tremendously faithful woman. And I grew up in Long Island. I grew up in a little town called Amityville, Long Island. And my mom was a mother of the church, and my mom was incredibly faithful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned from her. My sister, not so much, but I learned from her. My sister died a year after my mom died.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've had a tremendous amount of loss in my life. And so some people say that God allowed me to have the hemorrhagic stroke so I could forget about all the hurt and pain that I'd had in my life. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have to tell you that, you know, my memory, I belong to the DRS club, and y'all know what that is. And I joined that after my stroke. So, but it's okay. I remember what I need to remember, and I remember always to be grateful for what I have. I think that for the rest of my life, what I want to do again is focus on celebrating and bringing us together as a community.
What's up, Calvin?